Violence erupts in Paris as protesters clash with riot cops over Macron's hated pension reforms. Again, another protest. We'll be talking about this here in just a second. And then, of course, U.S. Defense's secretary makes unannounced trips to Iraq. There's a lot of really, really weird stuff going on here, so we're going to cover all of it. Welcome to Marfoogle News. Just to get right into it, it says that the U.S. Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, made an unannounced trip to Baghdad on Tuesday, according to the U.S. press pool traveling with him. Austin, the highest-ranking cabinet official to visit the country since the start of the Biden administration, according to the press pool, said in a statement that he is to Iraq to reaffirm the U.S.-Iraq strategic partnership as we move forward with a more secure, stable, and sovereign Iraq. It says that Austin met with Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani and is expected to meet other senior officials while he is in the country. The meeting with the Iraqi Prime Minister was not on camera, according to the pool traveling with the secretary. Oddly convenient, right? Not on camera, so whatever happened there was behind closed doors. It said after his visit to Baghdad, Austin will return to Amman, Jordan, where he stated his trip to the Middle East on Sunday. So we'll talk about this and much, much more. We have a lot of big things that have just happened in the last 24 hours, so stick around. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. If you've never been here before, make sure to sign up for our notifications over on marfooglenews.com, where you can also sign up for our email alerts. Now, over there, you will find a full bibliography for today's show. You will see that every single article, tweet, video, picture, document is all organized by thumbnail. Just look for today's thumbnail all around us. Speaking about the submarines, they say there is indications are surrounding the United States off of both coasts. Now, when you go here, you'll see, once you do that, you'll find every single article, tweet, video, picture, and document. Sorry about that, guys. We have some sort of sound bagoggle here. And yes, I just made up bagoggle. Again, this will have all that you need, and you can actually read along with a second device. So let's get into the first article here. Dex, let's bring in my co-internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So it says that the U.S. Defense Secretary obviously went, Lloyd Austin. Why would he be going there? To reminisce about our long and drawn-out conflict? I guess
this is absolutely a strategic setup. So let's remember, Iraq borders the Rando Store country right next door. We do have troops there, and his main point was in my opinion, he was trying to ensure that our troops can remain there. I think one of the quotes was he's looking forward to U.S. forces remaining there so long as the government allows them. So I think this is definitely a strategy play to bring those forces, to either keep the forces we have there or potentially bring more in, as it relates to what is talking about doing against the nuclear development that Iran is doing. So if we're going to end up helping, we need to be in the neighboring state, so to speak, or the neighboring country there, to help pull that off. That's my opinion. I could be totally wrong, but that's what it looks like to me. Everything else has been heating up with Is and I, and I think that that's what this is all about.
Yeah. So President JB essentially went to UKR. That was unannounced. Now we have an unannounced trip to Iraq. This is turning into a pattern, right? My thought is when these things are unannounced, they're not talking about it. Obviously, it's done like that for a reason. It's done strategically. So what is actually happening here? What are they talking about? I'd love to hear some of your ideas. Again, over on the chat, make sure to pop in Spirits to Energy. What's going on? We have Eddie Collins, DJ, Dova Goal over on D Live. We have Roxanne O'Rider over on YouTube. White Roses, UFT Talker or UF Talker. Let's see here. Karen Rax, JT, Sebastian Lover. What's happening? Eddie is on the target. I would have to see what Eddie said. Ilea, thank you for modding. Wages, if you are in here tonight, thank you so much if you had the time. And then Twisted Luck Truth. Hey, what's up, man? Nice to see you. Let's see here. David Wad, Mr. Nice Guy Alexander. And then if you get a chance, there was a really great space. I got the chance to speak only because of a really awesome person, Maze Love. Make sure to go follow her on Twitter. But again, Grant Cardone was holding it on the J6ers, and it's pretty crazy stuff. So make sure to go over and listen to that. I will make sure to share that out on my Twitter. At Marfugal if you want to go follow. So what do you think about this unannounced trip? Again, let me know in the comments down below. If you end up having a chance, make sure to just say hi down there. It helps us out, and of course, it lets us get to know you as well. So thank you. And then 2 Matamoros kidnapping victims perished, 1 injured and 1 found alive after traveling to Mexico. It said that 2 of the 4 American citizens kidnapped in Mexico on Friday are now perished. It says Mexican authorities have revealed. 1 of the victims was found alive, while the 4th is injured in unknown condition. The Tamaulipas state governor, Americo Villarreal, I think is that Villarreal, said on Tuesday. So if you've seen some of the mainstream headlines right now, they say that we're actually at war with the U.S. cartels. They are saying that, you know, these cartels are essentially just snatching up every American possible. On one piece that I saw, they were saying it's not okay to go to. Sorry, I just noticed this. Look at this. What? Oh, okay. It has 4 of them. I'm like, I know this is, by the way, this is something that grabs the information from the website and takes out all the ads and stuff. But I just thought that was kind of interesting that this was grabbed by the app that does this. It grabs what's behind. Just give you an example. It says, I don't even want to say those numbers, right? It grabs this. There is no numbers on here that say that, but that's the images. So I just thought that was
number. It's the number of the images. I think they're probably 7s now, but they were that other number first.
Look at that. That's weird. Anyways, I think everybody notices when they see those. Anyways, I thought that was weird. Totally sidetracked me like a squirrel and a dog, or a squirrel and ADHD. But they've been saying that we're like at war with the cartels. One thing that I don't know enough about to comment on, but I do know some, is that those cartels are heavily, heavily involved with some of our 3-letter agencies. So I think it's kind of, I don't know what to think about this, if it's a distraction or not. I know that there are real things and real events going on with Mexico and the cartel and probably Americans. But how much of it is because of what has happened with all of the different people that have been arrested? Dex, go ahead.
You know, it's interesting. They're saying, in the reporting, I should say, that this was accidental. They were mistakenly taken when their van was maybe involved in a minor bumper-to-bumper collision or something like that in this town they were headed to, and they were in the middle of crossfire. And they were taken. Now, I don't know if that's fully true. That may be a good message to push out of Mexico so that you don't scare off all the Americans that bring all their money down there, especially right now during spring break, and spend it in the country. So it could be that might not be the true story there. We'll never know. But we do know that that was reported they were going to that town from, I think they had Carolina plates. I'm assuming they drove all the way there, given the fact that their plates were that. But they were going there for medical treatments, probably some sort of plastic surgery, is what I had heard in another article, cosmetic surgery.
Yeah, as far as, what the individual stories on the people are, it's always been pretty crazy down there. Ever since I visited like 20 years ago, they had, M16 dudes guarding Sayulita and Bucerias. I mean, there was parts of, the cities that you could not go down. They had roadblocks set up by their local military or militia that they said, if you go past that, then you are basically on your own. So, I mean, this is a long time thing, but there's always been some sort of crazy involvement right now where most of the fentanyl, that bad stuff that's all over the street is coming from, is down there via China. It's being made there, and then it's getting through from the south. So pretty nasty stuff. Many people look at what has been going on over the last few years, and it's a hard thing to say that it's not orchestrated in some way. The uptick now, fentanyl perishings, people perishing from fentanyl, has now beat out, I think, car crashes and bang events combined. So it was like over 100,000 people perished from this stuff. You see it everywhere in every metropolis. I don't know how the countries are as far as like out in the country if you see this as much, but in the major metropolis city, at least the 4 I've been to in the last 3 years, it's gone downhill really fast. You can see this stuff everywhere. It has literally replaced the prior stuff before that, which the heroin, it has replaced that almost completely, almost everywhere. And this stuff is like 100,000 times freaking stronger, and it just knocks people off life like that. So it's very scary stuff. If you haven't checked out The Lifeboat, it's a great channel. In the Fugel fam, of course, the creator, Tommy, and then, of course, Wages World helps out over there as well. But they do a channel on recovery and things like that. They talk about that subject a lot. And as they will point out, it's a subject that they don't want talked about. It is pretty much anything that you look at that is filtered or censored is the stuff that probably has some sort of crazy, weird involvement. And that sounds like a crazy tinfoil thing to say, but it's been true time and time again. All right, and then Japan's new rocket fails after engine issue in blow to space ambitions. Japan's new medium-lift rocket failed on its debut flight in space on Tuesday after the launcher's second-stage engine did not ignite as planned, in a blow to its efforts to cut the cost of accessing space and compete against Elon Musk's SpaceX. It said the 187-foot-tall H-3 rocket, Japan's first new model in 3 decades, lifted off without a hitch from the Tanegashima spaceport, a live-streamed broadcast by Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, or JAXA. It said, but upon reaching space, the rocket's second-stage engine failed to ignite, forcing mission officials to manually destroy the vehicle 14 minutes into the flight. So, obviously, people are chatting about how it blew up and everything, and it says it was decided that the rocket could not complete its mission, so the destruct command was sent. The failed attempt followed an aborted launch last month, and the debris would have fallen into the ocean east of the Philippines, JAXA said. Science and Technology Minister Keiko Nagaoka said in a statement that the government had established a task force to investigate the very regrettable failure. It says this will have a serious impact on Japan's future space policy, space business, and technological competitiveness, said Hirotaka Watanabe, professor at Osaka University. So they're trying to do basically a more affordable way to get to space. They're trying to, edge their way into this thing. How many of you think that there might be some, funny business here, that it was sabotaged in some way? It says the H-3 is extremely important to ensure our access to space and that we ensure that we are competitive, JAXA President Hiroshi Yamakawa told reporters. JAXA's goal of fielding competitive launcher was unchanged, he had. So, Dex, as far as Japan is obviously not on China's good side, and after a lot of things that have been talking about, there are actual real plans that these think tanks drop in China that would consist of taking Taiwan, taking Japan afterwards, and even taking Hawaii. These are real plans that people, think tank. I wonder if something happened here that was funny business.
I don't know if there was any funny business, but let's look at what was on board. The H-3 was carrying the ALOS-3. It's a disaster management land observation satellite, which was also equipped with an experimental infrared sensor designed to detect NK's ballistic missile launches.
And somehow it had a failure in the second stage, right? I wonder, well, in his comment, he said, what was this? He said it was regrettable. Is that what he said? He said it's very regrettable failure. I wonder why he said it like that. I don't know. I would think that China having their own space station now and having, a drive to probably stay ahead of others, I wouldn't put it past them to have something done to Japan. But that's just my thoughts. What are you guys' thoughts? Let me know in the comments down below. Darren Schrader, I'm getting arthritis in my hands. Getting old sucks. Yes, it does. Darren Schrader. Bug Nana, what's going on? WS Gen, we have Android Architect taken out with the high-powered laser. And then Bobby Sue, which, by the way, China also has that kind of technology. Do we have Trinity? We have Trinity. Great mod. Make sure to go check out her channel. She does amazing edited work. Really, really a lot of work into her stuff. Make sure to go check her out. And then, of course, Curly Watch Lady says, I say suspicious. Japan is going to turn on us, says it's J562. And then mass border infiltration of illicit drugs and cartel members roots drug in deep, especially in the border towns. U.S. is already conquered, and the sheep are chasing air. Air balloons on the MSM. Well, I'm glad that the balloon fiasco is somewhat over. And then Truth Iris, what's happening? Let's see here. Jay Slays, nice to see you. Rizar, and everybody else that has popped in so far. And then we have violence erupts in Paris as protesters clash with riot cops over Macron's hated pension reforms. Dex, do you want to go over this? There's protests there almost every week now, it seems.
That's correct. We've covered this before, and they're at it again. I believe they're on the 6th day of a strike now. So things are coming to a standstill, and now I guess the tensions are getting really high. So they are protesting the changes that they're trying to do to the pension plans, raising, I think, the age and maybe even lowering what they're getting. I'm not sure if that's correct, but I do recall the age change was one of the things. But this is a big deal for a lot of folks there. Obviously, they're taking it to the streets, so to speak, and in more so than just a march or a peaceful protest. It's getting what we've seen happen in lots of other countries, and we've seen happen in France before. This is not the first, and it won't be the last. But it is pretty big right now, pretty big as in size and the number of people. And obviously not something you want to see in your backyard, but at the same time, you can empathize, I guess, with probably both sides to some extent, maybe not the government side as much as the people.
Yeah, and if anybody that lives there wants to comment, please let us know. I don't know how many folks in Paris we have watching, but let me know in the comments down below. San Diego Scott, Mr. Nice Guy Alexander says Antifa's involved. And then Danish Girl, we have Celtic Warrior, what's going on? Lifeboat, hey everyone, great seeing everyone watching on the big screen with Cedar. Nice to see you, Tommy, and thank you for everything that you do over there. And Jeanette Savor, Monk Me 69, what is happening? And then Stephen Karam, the French are wide awake. Why aren't you? Wake up. Yeah, they've been pushing back. And then Off Grid Hillbilly Style says, "What's up, Marv? Hey, nice to see you." And then June Bug, Monk Searcher, and Wide Awake and Angry. Maybe Paris will get lucky and President B will provide their pensions too. Yeah. I'm sure, right? And then we have the coming EV batteries will sweep away fossil fuel transport with or without net zero. So this is where they're trying to they're pushing us. They're not trying. They're going to change everything over. One thing I want to point out is if we are now dependent on oil completely and the petrodollar is the monetary system, then if you take out oil out of the equation, major things are going to change. Major things. I mean, there's no way around it. If the petrodollar is no longer the thing that runs the planet, then whatever takes its place is going to be. And they're saying in the next couple years, they're going to be outlawing cars, gas-powered cars, and outlawing the manufacturing of it. It's already happened in some places. So it's pretty crazy to think that this is happening very, very fast. It says the Argonne National Laboratory in the U.S. has essentially cracked the battery technology for electrical vehicles, discovering a way to raise the future driving range of standard EVs to 1,000 miles or more. Which again, like right now, the main thing that holds a lot of people back, especially with the trucks are insanely low. One of those trucks, they were making fun of it that with a load, it would get like 50 miles or 60 miles or something like that. And it, advertises like 300 or something. That's nothing. That means you would have to refill, working. You just couldn't do it. So what is the point of it? Well, if they do end up extending this, it says to 1,000 miles or more, it promises to do so cheaply without exhausting the global supply of critical minerals in the process. The joint project with the Illinois Institute of Technology has achieved a radical jump in the energy density of battery cells, the typical lithium-ion battery used in the car industry today. Stores about 200 watt hours per kilogram, and it says that their lab experiment has already reached 675 WH per kilogram with the lithium air variant. It says this is high enough density to power trucks, trains, and arguably mid-haul aircraft, long thought to be beyond reach of electrification. The team believes it can reach 1,200 WH per kilogram. If so, almost all global transport can be decarbonized more easily than we thought, and probably at a negative net cost compared to continuation of hydrocarbon status. So what they're finding with this is, this is saying that they are finding a way to make this work for everything. Most people would say, hurrah, like that's great. But do understand that the whole world system has to change along with this. So if everything changes from gas, not to mention there's an argument for, electric and the damage that, making these things and what it ends up taking to make them does damage, it's going to change all of every country in the world. Right now, the U.S. has, of course, this, crazy hold with the petrodollar. If that changes, everything's going to change. Dex, this is pretty cool as far as like 1,200 miles per, if we got a vehicle that could go over 1,000 miles, that would be insane. Right now, I think the best one, is what, 300 or 400 miles or something, but you have to refill. That was the downside when these first came out.
Exactly. I think if they can't solve supercharging where it's measured in minutes, probably under 10, most people aren't used to spending more than 10 minutes at a gas station. If they can't solve that problem, then adding length would definitely beef up the sales, especially if they can do it for less money. So it doesn't, take these, $50,000, $100,000 cars and turn them into $300,000 cars because they can go 1,000 miles. That's not going to work either because people won't be able to afford it. But ultimately, look, at the end of the day, an electric motor is far more powerful and uses a lot less energy to produce, the power needed to spin wheels or wheels on rails or wheels on the concrete, for that matter, than petro does. So it's the torque's there, everything's there. It's just the biggest problem we've had is battery capacity. And I think about like, what is it, Moore's law in the computing space, where everything just exponentially increased year over year over year. In this electrification space, specifically in battery tech, and probably in the minerals that go along with it, we're going to see huge advancements. If we just saw this going from 200 to 675 over the course of the last year or two, imagine where it'll be in another year or in another 2 years. It might even be much more dense, or they'll have other ways of storing energy. So this is, yes, there's a whole other side of this that you have to take into consideration. Like you said, the petrodollar, or take into account, what does it mean to have all of our cars, electrified? And, is that a good thing, a bad thing? What kind of other things go along with it? Yeah, all that stuff's important to think about. But just looking at the pure technical side of it, putting electricity to a motor and spinning it. I mean, heck, our trains have been using electricity to run all of our diesel engines that are pushing these trains around for the longest time. The diesel engine does nothing but generate the electricity. The electricity is stored in a battery and then pushed to the wheels of the train with electric motors. So this is not new.
No, it's not. And it's something that, well, as far as like the range on these electric batteries, this is going to change everything. Somebody said quick change batteries. These things are gigantic. On the Tesla, I think the reason the Tesla is so heavy, I mean, it was like 8,000 pounds or something, was because that whole bottom of the car was a giant, battery pack, right? I don't know if that would be, that might be for something else, but or maybe a small car, that would be possible. I don't know how big some of the tiny cars have, but then where would you store it? And then you'd probably use that more power hauling it around if it ran out. But I always thought that. I was like, why couldn't you carry an extra battery with you or something, or be able to buy separate ones? But that also, these things are dangerous. Some of these can, catch fire, burn, whatever else. As far as, you have to make sure, if you're getting lithium, that it's made right. I don't get the people that are buying these kind of experimental cars that it's their first try or something. Obviously Tesla's been doing it for a really long time. But yeah, the batteries and the technology behind it, it's funny. Somebody said, what about the 15-minute cities? It's like they're extending the range, but then they'll charge you probably per mile that you go outside of the 15-minute city with it. So what's the point? And then North Korea threatens action after U.S. flies nuclear-capable B-52 bomber over the Korean peninsula. So this happened. It said that NK has threatened. Hold on. It's like migrating on me. Let's see here. There we go. Stop migrating. What is going on here? All right. We can have it like that. It says that North Korea has threatened to take quick, overwhelming action. And they always have the stupidest quotes as far as their responses. We will unleash the dogs of Kennel Town or something. Just always some weird statement. Quick, overwhelming action. How is North Korea going to overwhelm the United States? That's just stupid. It says flew a nuclear-capable B-52 bomber over the Korean peninsula in an exercise with South Korean warplanes. It says Kim Yo-jong, the sister of dictator Kim Jong-un, made the threat as the U.S. and South Korea continue to carry out joint military exercises. It says, quote, "We keep our eye with the restless military moves by the U.S. forces and the South Korean puppet military and are always on standby to take appropriate, quick, and overwhelming action at any time according to our judgment," Kim Yo-jong said in a statement, as reported by state media. She added that the demonstrative military moves and all sorts of rhetoric by the U.S. and South Korea, which go on extremely frantic as not to be overlooked, undoubtedly provide NK with conditions for being forced to do something to cope with them. First of all, if you haven't watched for a long time, the fact that the sister is saying this is absolutely odd in the first place. If you know how their culture is, how they actually treat the women of that country, it was a really big surprise when she even popped up at all. It was always Kim Jong-un after his surgery that he had, and at that time, there was headlines saying that he had perished. They said he straight up died on the operating table. A couple hours later, then they said, oh, well, he might be brain dead. And then they said, oh, actually, he's fine. Actually, he's in recovery. That's when the sister started talking. And 3 weeks before this, before there was ever the surgery or anything, sorry, it was at the time when he got injured. Dennis Rodman, the famous NBA player that is best friends with Kim Jong-un, said if you see his sister talking, then something is wrong. And that was like a week and a half. There was all these headlines for a week. That was before she ever spoke. And he goes, I can't say why because I'm family friends with them, but if you hear her talking, that's when you gotta start wondering. A week and a half later, she started talking. Why is she the one saying these threats? Why isn't Kim? And I know since then they've said he has, but now look at the technology they have. So people have said, oh, well, I saw a clip of him like 2 months ago. So you don't even know if that's him. I mean, if somebody, a regular Twitter person or a YouTube person can put up a fake video of JB, our president, and make it look believable where people are retweeting it as a real video, then who's to say that the government, of all people, can't use Hollywood graphics and everything else and AI to copy his voice and to make it? I'm really starting to wonder if he is even around. All of the video that has been seen can be fake now. You don't even really know. So I think that this is a big distraction, but I also do have it in the back of my head that NK could be used as a big Fantastic Freddy. They definitely have the power to super EMP us. There's a lot of people that are afraid when they are doing things, but when they're not, they don't care. But obviously there was a lot of people that don't normally pay attention to it when T-Man was going back and forth and they were calling people Rocket Man and they were launching nuke after nuke after nuke. People did get scared. But most people, laugh off North Korea. I don't know what's going on over there, but it's definitely super weird. Dex, do you want to pop in on that?
Well, the back and forth between testing and or drills, I should say, and
artillery,
is kind of a big deal. I guess they say they're going to do something, and then the other side does it, and they just keep going back and forth. I think we got to keep our eye on NK. It's definitely one, like you said, it could be part of the of an orchestrated effort with their allies. But it's definitely one of those things that every time they spin something up, it could turn into be something worse, especially when they go firing, their, missiles over the country of Japan. That's not a good thing if they fall to the ground there.
No, Phil Billy says Kim Jong, Mr. Fatty McButterpants, Neil Cruz, Obama is the real prez. Let's see here. My Blue Sky, NK is like a bratty child with very dangerous toys. Yeah, you could say that. And then NK wants food again. Yeah, we covered that a couple days ago as far as, they say that everybody there is starving, right? Spruce Bringston, what is happening? Monk Me. Let's see here. Monk Me says the Flex 15 are a new one. Do they come with panels? Yeah, there's all sorts of different packages. How real is real, Planet Brad? Well, I think very soon here you're going to see it's not. The fact that now they've matched up the AI with voice and video now, it's gonna cause a lot of really, really crappy things to happen. I already know. All right, and then thank you everybody that has popped in so far. I appreciate you guys. Thank you, Jenna B. Official, for the super thanks on that last show. Before we move on, I do want to remind you, if you haven't already, you can protect yourself against an EMP. This helps support our channel. We are independent. We don't have backup. We don't have a multi-channel network that protects us. If we say the wrong thing and get knocked off, we have to deal with it ourselves. So if you do want to end up protecting yourself with a Keystone military-tested device that has, of course, been called up by agencies like DHS, DOD, and protect yourself against electromagnetic pulse and coronal mass ejections, then you can go to marfugalnews.com/EMP. This is a device that you can essentially put into your cars, your trucks, your motorcycles, your RVs, your ATVs, your four-wheelers, pretty much anything that runs, including boats, ham radios, and even your house, and it will ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your device, car, home, boat, whatever it is on. They also make a very specific EMP shield for the Flex 1500. So if you do want a solar generator that is actually protected, they make one for the Flex 1500 specifically. In fact, I believe the Flex 1500 is the only generator to date, solar generator, that you can get an EMP shield for. So go to marfugalnews.com/EMP, and not only will you save $50 off per device, but you'll help support our channel. Again, since it's a great way to support us and protect yourself at the same time, and that stacks on top of any sale they're doing. All right, and then Dex, let's talk about Xi Jinping hits out at the U.S. as urges China private firms to fight alongside the Communist Party.
So this is kind of a big step for him in the sense that he's actually calling out the U.S. He usually says things like Western states or some developed nations, but he doesn't typically call out the U.S. directly. But in his speech today, he did. He called us out, and then he called along the rest of their private companies to quote unquote fight alongside the CCP against these challenges. Both that are at home and abroad. So kind of a big statement coming from him. If you don't think that the rhetoric is getting to a new fever pitch, so to speak, then pay attention, because this is a new line of communication publicly from him, in the sense that the way he's communicating and how he's positioning things, it's getting, and we'll talk more in the next article as well about how they are communicating the information out to their public as well as to the globe. So I don't think it's very clear that the relationship that we have with China is deteriorating and continues to deteriorate. It doesn't seem like anything is headed in the right direction, which all signs point towards, a conflict with them. All signs are pointing directly towards that, and they know it, and I think we know it, and that's why our media is telling us one side to try to give us all of this information about how bad they are, so that we, or have the minds and hearts in alignment here in the U.S. to go against an adversary. And I think the same thing is happening over there as well.
Hi, and thank you. Thanks, Ilea, for modding as well. And there's a few people, old school Fugle fam. Hey, if you guys, the main thing is, I'm a human being. I read the chat too. If you are, just not having fun at today's show, you don't have to be here. I love you guys. But again, it's like, I love you, but you irritate me, that kind of stuff. It's like, why even say it then? The whole point of my chat has always been push people up, don't push them down. Even if you want to leave, constructive criticism, please do. Leave it on a comment. But I'm a human being. I see your comments. I get it. We're always trying to change the show to make it better for you guys. But again, as far as I do believe a lot of people have seen my show through a filter, which they can't unfilter, right? Because things are made up about people like me, and then that is a filter that affects people how they view. So then when they see something, they go, oh, it's just like what they did to every person you can think of that's been persecuted over the last 5 years. Once you see them through that light, you can't go back, and that's fine. But again, the whole point of this is to get people prepared, to have people and by the way, we've had setback after setback after setback. I would love to go back to the way the old shows were, but those old shows also had things that we were able to do that were taken away from the U.S. government, or that were taken away by platforms that deplatformed us. We're on our own here. So we have to be super careful. We can't just go into a war wearing a bright yellow vest. We're going in with camo. And again, I'm a human, so I have my on days and I have my off days. I also have 4 children. I also have a life and a day job now. So you guys, I'm sorry about the later shows, about going an hour later, but I'm working construction during the day. So if you don't like the show, you don't have to be here. That's all I'm saying. So I'm literally working 12 to 13 hours a day now, and I'd just appreciate it if you don't like my show anymore. There's so many other channels out there. I ask that you guys be polite. I don't say mean things about you. Don't say mean things about me. That's all. If you want to make your own channel and say mean things about me, there's plenty of those out there you can add to the pile. But as far as coming into my chat, we don't push people down. If you have a constructive criticism, leave it in the comments, and I will read it. And I always try to change. And if people tell me something, I'm very self-reflective, and I will look at things and I will change things around. We've changed the show a million times. Right now, for the last month, we have had issues. We can't do call-ins. We can't do a lot of stuff that we normally do. So it's not like we're doing it on purpose. I would really love to have call-ins again. I would love to have video guests, like I said. But as you guys see, we have added something every single day. And now we are kind of stuck doing it a certain way until I can afford to get a new mixer. So again, you guys know the Roboto issues that have been happening. I'm not happy about it, but I do appreciate those of you that have stuck with me since I was doing videos in my car. And I'd really appreciate if you just stick with me a little bit longer. As you guys can see, this is not an easy thing for anybody to do. Anybody can say, oh, it's so easy. But once you get into that spot, you are then the target of everything negative. You might be the beneficiary of anything positive, but you are definitely the target of anything negative. And if there's 5,000 people watching you a day, 3,100, and if you don't contact every single person enough, then they slowly feel like, all that people see is their connection with me, but they don't see my connection with the just absolute huge network of thousands and thousands of people. So there's a lot that is expected of us and nothing expected of you guys. All you are expected to do is be polite, push each other up, say nice things to other people, because this was a spot where you could come, we could talk about the news, and we could say, this sounds BS, this sounds whatever. Again, I appreciate each and every one of you. All I want is this space to be somewhere where people can come after work and know that there's not going to be any drama. So I do appreciate the comments about the old shows. We are going back to that. We haven't changed. It's not a possibility right now. So thank you guys, and I'm done with my rant. But, understand, I'm a human being. It's not like I'm not affected by it. And, if I've urged however many people to do their own channel, and if you feel like doing a job yourself, go ahead. I will even show your channel on my channel. I've helped channels that have basically just crapped on me after I've helped them. In fact, I've helped over 1,000 channels get to where they are now. And that's not like a bragging thing. There's a good chunk of those people that have they didn't get enough help, or they didn't get enough shout outs, and then they just end up turning on you. It's absurd. So I do appreciate those of you that have had faith in me through the years and don't see me through a red filter that somebody else put on your face, instead of just actually looking at, with your own opinion. So it's very easy, once somebody has created lies about you, to have those lies affect a view of people. And I see it in celebrity places all the time. And again, I'm not a celebrity, but you can see when people look at when there's lies made up about people in the public space. And then once that gets out, even though 2 weeks later it's found out it's a total lie, it affects people's view of that person. So the bigger you get, the more people that you have hate you. And that's always been how it is. For us, we are like a really tight-knit crowd here. And I just appreciate everybody, make sure you understand that it's totally voluntary to be here. I want you guys here, and I love you guys. This channel has meant more than anything in my life to me ever. And that's why I've worked to keep it a community and not just turn everything off to produce videos that people consume. I've kept this community, along with a lot of help from our mods and wonderful people around us. We have kept it going through so much drama. So I really do appreciate the feedback, but please give us a chance, give us some time. You can check back on the open construction of our channel, skip a week and come back and see if it's better. All right. And then China minister lashes out at the U.S. in first news conference. In his first news conference since taking office, Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Gang lashed out Tuesday at the United States over deteriorating bilateral relations and Washington's support for Taiwan. He also insinuated that America was undermining efforts for peace in UKR in order to extend the conflict for his own benefit. Washington's China's policies entirely deviated from the rational and sound track. Qin told journalists on the sidelines of the annual meeting of China's rubber stamp legislature in his only formal scheduled news conference for the year, although he is also prone to taking questions during foreign visits. It says Washington means to contain and suppress China in all respects and get to the two countries locked in a zero-sum game. It's called establishing guardrails and not seeking conflict simply means that China should not respond in words or action when slandered or attacked, Qin said. That is just impossible. It says if the United States does not hit the brakes or hit the brake, but continues to speed down the wrong path, no amount of guardrails can prevent derailing, and there surely will be conflict and confrontation. He says such competition is a reckless gamble, with the stakes being a fundamental interest of the two peoples and even the future of humanity. Qin's harsh and borderline apocalyptic language appeared to defy predictions that China was abandoning its aggressive wolf warrior diplomacy in favor of a more moderate presentation, as bilateral relations have hit a historical low over trade and technology. So, you guys know my thoughts. I believe we are headed towards a conflict with China. New things that I have heard from other people that are obviously, as far as it's been really great to talk to a ton of different people in spaces with different backgrounds. Most agree, though. Most say that this is part of whatever. If you think it's all orchestrated and it's a plan to get us to these new objectives, I believe there's a way for it to be both, where China is involved and all of these crazy oligarchs and the W and the WEF and everything else at the same time. What do you guys think, though? Let me know in the chat. Dex, go ahead.
There's some choice words there. Using the analogy of derailing, given what's going on in America, I think it was probably not the best choice of words, in my opinion, but maybe there was something behind that.
Yeah, as far as like, we'll probably hear a lot more comments from China talking about this kind of stuff in the future, but it's like when they actually say what we're thinking, it's kind of creepy. And let's see here. U.S. Oh, man. By the way, there's a lot of other stuff going on about with McCarthy and the kind of release that Tucker did. If you haven't seen Tucker Carlson, I don't know if Tucker Carlson's going to get canceled or what, but Tucker Carlson showed other footage from the J6 event, and it's pretty much everywhere. It's pretty nuts. But we'll talk about that here in a little bit. U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy plans to meet Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen in the U.S. in the coming weeks. Two sources told Reuters or Routers? Dex, I always say it wrong. Reuters or Routers? Is it Routers?
Reuters.
Reuters. So it's
Roy
neither.
Rogers. Reuters.
On Monday, a move that could replace the Republican speaker's anticipated but sensitive trip to the democratically governed island claimed by China. It says the sources who spoke on condition of anonymity said Tsai had been invited to speak on the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library during a transit through California on a planned visit to Central America, and that McCarthy was likely to meet her in the USA. So every time that they meet the leaders every time the United States specifically goes and talks with anybody from Taiwan, they make a huge deal out of it. They say you shouldn't be doing it because they basically think it, they say it's part of their country. So it's like supporting the fact that they're not, right? Dex, as far as this is now a whole lot more than, this is the Speaker of the House, right? Or this is McCarthy doing it, right?
That's correct. So he was originally planning to go there, and everybody was saying, when's he going to go? When's he going to go? Because, he's going to pull his version of a Nancy. Now things have changed, and they've changed so much that he's only going to do it here, or it appears, according to these sources. We'll see what comes out of this, but that's what they're reporting, is he's changing it to have them come here. It's one thing to meet. It's another thing to go to that country. And going there was a big problem. And I think maybe this is a sign that he's not willing to travel there if he thinks things have gotten to a new level of contention between us and China. That's my concern, is does he know something more that would actually prevent him from going there, or at least as the timing is concerned?
Well, McCarthy has... it's all a bunch of BS. Then we're going to see highlights that China says, oh, you shouldn't have gone, or you shouldn't go, or they shouldn't meet. And it just keeps going in circles. But many people, including military members in our group, do believe that this is going to go down even this year. That's not what I'm saying. I think that, but nobody knows when this is actually going to go down. But I didn't know about a lot of the plans that have been talked about. Obviously, countries do like contingency plans for every kind of war. They have think tanks and they have war games that they do for everything. But China has done war games where they take Taiwan, then take, then they take Japan and they take Hawaii at the same time. I'm like, that's just crazy. And Guam. Somebody said that the other night, and then the more you look into it, Global Times even put out like a piece and then took it back. They like unpublished it, which I think is only possible in China, right? But I just thought it was weird that this plan that they have also contains Hawaii. There's a lot going on here, so I would pay attention to it very closely. Have your ducks in a row. People should be prepped up by now. We warned you before CV happened, and we know how messed up that was. They're giving us the same pattern of speeches. Even if you don't believe it's going to be a real event, it's going to look real, and it's going to feel real, and it's going to change it's going to change all of our economies for real, because the people in charge don't care about us. All right, and then intelligence suggests pro-UKR group sabotaged the pipes now. Okay, so before we go into that, because this is like, okay, so they expect people to believe that is actually possible for some little tiny group. That's insane. But I do want to remind you, if you want to support us in a different way and get yourself one of the most badass solar generators out there, go over and get the Energy. They have the X2 and the previously mentioned Flex 1500. The Flex 1500 and the X2 are both awesome, but I would say that my favorite is the Flex 1500 because it's expandable up to 96 batteries. Not only that, you can also, of course, mod it to be UPS now. That's a huge thing. It's an uninterrupted power supply with this new rapid charger, which basically its only weakness has now been fixed. It was an EPS, which means it switches over after however many milliseconds. Now with the UPS, it's like under 10 milliseconds. Basically, when the power goes out, your stuff will switch over to this like that. But also you can modify it in all sorts of different ways, and there's all sorts of low wattage accessories that you can get with it. And then almost all of the packages they have, you can actually get panels with it. And of course, that you don't have to pay $5 a gallon gas, and it's silent. Stealth, nobody's going to hear it from 3 blocks away. Go to marfugalnews.com/energy. Thank you for doing so. All right, but so the pipes, right? This has been something that they won't talk about. They're saying intelligence says that it was a pro-UKR group. So neither government, but just a pro-UKR group. So they're kind of taking it was some bad guys. Sorry about that. It was some bad guys, but they were pro-UKR, and it was a private group. If you have read or even seen a little bit of how this thing was done, this had to be a major nation state. There's no way some group like this did this. That's just my opinion. I would love to hear yours. It says new intelligence reviewed by U.S. officials suggests that a pro-UKR group carried out the attack. And by the way, this looks bad for the UKR, but they don't care. So that's what's weird about this. And they would not let Vlad be in on the next probe too, which Russia is now saying that proves it, right? But now they're saying that this group did the attack on the Nord, step towards determining responsibility for an act of sabotage that has confounded investigators on both sides of the Atlantic for months. U.S. officials said that they had no evidence President Volodymyr Zelensky of UKR or his top lieutenants were involved in the operation, or that the perpetrators were acting at the direction of UKR government officials. It says the brazen attack on the natural gas pipeline, which links Vlad to Western Europe, fueled public speculation about who to blame, from Moscow to Kiev and London to Washington. And it has remained one of the most consequential unsolved mysteries of Russia's year-old conflict in UKR. UKR and its allies have been seen by some officials as having the most logical potential motive to attack the pipelines. They have opposed the project for years, calling it a national security threat because it would allow Russia to sell gas more easily to Europe. UKR government and military intelligence officials say that they had no role in the attack and do not know who carried it out. So if you are somebody who's not left, not right, but a fan of the truth, then you've probably done your research on who people think did the pipelines. And it's very convenient that a certain country is left out of the probe, and then they say it's a pro-UKR, so they're kind of making themselves look bad, but at the same time, nobody has to take direct responsibility for it. And the ball keeps getting kicked down the road. Dex, seems kind of convenient.
It does. They do mention, they say in here that it was that they suspect that they were charges that were placed. In other words, they dove and went to that location. It's been reported that it could be 90 meters deep. That's 300 feet deep, approximately. Recreational diving only goes to about 130. So when you get beyond that, you're getting extremely technical. When you get to 300 feet, I don't know this from experience. I'm not a diver, so I'm sure somebody out there's, I've been 400 feet, whatever. Maybe you have, but PADI and standard recreational diving is limited to 40 meters. So to go deeper than that, you need to have some really, really good skills and know-how. So keep that in mind. Those are just some facts. 90 meters deep, 130 or 300 feet deep, and recreational diving goes to about 130, 140 feet.
Here's the thing, though. I bet there are probably professional divers out there that could have done it, but it almost seems like it would be more believable if a submarine with arms or something went down there and did this. Does it have to be divers, or is it in some area? Why do they keep saying it's divers?
No, I mean, it's totally within the realm of possibility for divers. That makes total sense. They just have to be well trained. I mean, this is not like everybody that goes diving for fun is going to be able to do this. So let's just label some pro group on the side that was going to go do this. Well, did they have the skill set to do it? And where did they find it? And those are some of the questions I would put out there. It sort of makes it very difficult when you start thinking about all these questions to put all those pieces together and believe it, I guess.
So here Alf said that the U.S. military, right? What you're saying, people, when somebody says that, they go, oh, you're carrying Putin's water or something. People should be looking for the truth no matter what. The fact that our president said with a smirk on his face that, oh, we'll do it somehow. How are you going to do it? Well, it will be done. It's like, how do people dismiss that? How do people, oh, that was just good. He was just joking. It's not kind of like somebody ends up perished. I'm sorry. So think about this. If somebody ends up perished, I was just watching a story about the guy, Ed Cranston, or the guy from the show where he's a drug dealer guy. What is that show? What is the dang show? Broken, or no, you guys know. Either
Breaking Bad? Is that
Breaking Bad, yes.
Okay.
Ed Cranston, that guy, when he was like 21, apparently he was wanted, and it's because him and his brother kept saying that they were, oh, we would love to take this guy out and, perish him. We would love to take this guy off the planet. And apparently, whatever the guy they were talking about ends up murdered, right? So they were actually wanted for murder when they were like 21, and they didn't even know it. And this is a story that he's done on all of these different nighttime shows, and at one point he was wanted for murder, right? Well, if somebody says, I'm going to take this guy off the planet, if that person gets taken off the planet, the first person they go to as a suspect would be the guy saying, I'm going to take this guy off the planet. In this case, did they even mention president as being like, formally investigated, where he was, what he did those? No. If he says he did it, he will get it done. I mean, how? But then they change the story when everybody gets pissed off. And now, if they've labeled it that you are supporting the other side, just like they've been labeling everybody this side or that side, it's like that is what ends up happening. People are afraid to say anything. People are afraid to say the truth because they don't want to be labeled an anti-patriot or somebody who supports this country or that country. They've done this everywhere. You can't say anything without being labeled something. But where did the truth go in all of this? Like where did, like, how about, our 3-letter agencies does a whole lot of horrible things. And we know this. You can be a patriot and still know about the truth about some of the nasty things that our countries do. Every country in the world has taken people, innocent people. You realize that? Every single country, their presidents have done direct orders to take an innocent person and take their life. Why? Maybe they saw something. Maybe they're connected to somebody. Maybe their family line can't continue. Whatever it may be. Or they're just, collateral damage if a missile hits somebody next to them, right? Every country has done this. So it's crazy to think that we even said we were going to do it, and then now it's all of a sudden it's not, right? Russia nuclear submarines. So for those of you like, what the thumbnail? And I believe this is probably less than accurate. The X's around our country, that's probably less accurate. But again, this is something that happens a lot, and we've probably always had this. I want to remind people that Russian submarines have popped up in the Puget Sound with the Seattle skyline in their background, and they have taken selfies in front of the Space Needle, or I guess the main skyline of our. I don't think you can see the Space Needle from where they popped up, but they have done it they've even popped it into a documentary where they basically showed us they could sneak in with their submarines, which even this article points out that they are on par with ours as far as quietness goes. So they are able to sneak past our defenses and get right up to our country. Well, they're saying that there's indications that these submarines are all around us. I'm kind of like, well, of course they are. But if this is part of a greater thing, if you're looking at the big picture of all of these military drills going on with everyone around the world, it's kind of hard to deny that something's going on here. People do not want to admit that something is happening. They want to push back against it. It says, as Russian President Vladimir Putin's war in Ukraine continues to rage, United States commanders and military observers are sounding the alarm about the activity of Russia's submarine fleet thousands of miles away off the U.S. coast. It says throughout the war, which began with Putin launched a full-scale invasion of neighboring UKR last February, there have been a buildup of Russian Navy forces in the Black Sea. There's also been an increasing presence of Russian submarines off the U.S. coast and in the Mediterranean, according to officials. The Russian Navy commands one of the most diverse submarine fleets in the world. Some are capable of carrying ballistic missiles with nuclear warheads, which Moscow considers key to its strategic deterrent. The nation has been working to improve its submarine fleet since the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. Over the past several years in particular, Moscow produced a series of submarines that have the capability to reach the most critical targets in the U.S. and continental Europe. In December, Putin said that his country would be building more nuclear-powered submarines, which will ensure Russia's security for decades to come. There are indications that nuclear-powered submarines have been deploying off of the coast of the United States and into the Mediterranean and elsewhere along Europe periphery. That was Michael Peterson, director of the Russia Maritime Studies Institute, which conducts research on the Russian military and economic issues linked to the world's ocean. It says their deployments mirror Soviet-style submarine deployments in the Cold War. Basically saying when we were really, really close before, this mirrors their exact patterns. They were coming right up to us. So I have no doubt that they've been doing this, and they probably did this when we were at peaceful times with them. But now there's actual ships and the different planes that go along with it to communicate for a strike at the same time that China is doing all of this stuff with Taiwan and with the Spratly Islands and, 3D rendering Hawaii for their drones. And, of course, all of the practice to hit out ports. Yesterday, we covered about how China possibly has a backdoor on all of our cranes that deal with containers. And 80% of the cranes in our ports are made by China and possibly have a backdoor to control them. That means they essentially could potentially turn off 80% of our cranes that are imports, everything, that take those, imports, put them on a truck, put them on a train, put them wherever. Not only that, it also tells the enemy, if they have access to it, it will tell the enemy what we're moving around or what we have moved around. So it's some pretty trippy stuff here. So right now, what they're reporting, and I'm sure in the next couple days, this is gonna get a little spicier from what I hear from our military members, that in the next couple days, there will most likely be some more coming out on this and specifics. I told you last week that they were watching the underwater cable from here to Europe, and specifically a military member, a Navy member, told me that they are basically chasing away ships and watching for submarines at that cable that connects us in Europe. They have for years, but just that last week, I told you guys that. And now look, they're basically saying that there's indications that they're all around. Dex, go ahead.
Let's not forget the New START treaty that was basically they announced they were not going to participate, and they actually suspended it. They signed that they were suspending it. That actually had restrictions on the number of nukes per sub. Like for us, it was, I think, 20 on an Ohio class sub based on that treaty. So without that treaty, you can put more. This could also be something else that's happening, is that they're getting out of that and they are putting more, or they can put the maximum load that they can fit in their subs, which would be more warheads.
Yeah. And there's been all sorts of weird stuff. Every time I think of Russian submarine, I think about that submarine that caught fire. What was that called? The Vladivostok or something? No, it's something weird. It means clown in Russian or something. But the Russian submarine that caught fire in like 2018 or 2019 or 17, it's been a long time. It feels like a long time. But it caught fire and 17 Russian sailors died. And at their funeral, the head of the military was at their funerals and told their families and did a speech saying that these men died preventing a planetary catastrophe. That still bothers me. Now, there's been pieces that have come out and it's somewhat explained that the nuclear reactor, this or that, people still believe that might have been something way worse. Like that was an actual confrontation between U.S. and Russia and all of this. If you have an opinion on it, let me know in the comments down below. If you remember what I'm talking about, let me know. If you don't, I will make sure to tweet out that story because there's still no answers on it. Dex, go ahead.
It's called the Losherik.
Losherik, that's right. And the reason why it was named that is because it's so top secret that the U.S. they say the U.S. doesn't know even what's on this thing, but it has the exterior looks like a regular submarine. The interior is made for super, super, super deep diving and has these ball structures inside. And they named it after like Losherik because that was like juggling or something, clown juggling. It's a really weird looking submarine if you look at the plans for it or what they think it looks like on the inside. And then we have Russia pulling in troops to northern Crimea in mass, says President's Representative Office. It says, according to the information from open sources, Russian military trucks, mainly from the 126th Coast Guard Brigade of Russia's Black Sea Fleet, are being transferred to the north of occupied peninsula through Simferopol. And it says that the agency noted that Russian invaders were also looking for trench diggers in the town of Krasnopirskovsk, asking them to come, quote, with their tools. Krasnopirskovsk sits on the Pirikop Isthmus, a strip of land about 8 kilometers wide connecting Crimea to mainland UKR. It says UKR's general staff also reported in the autumn of 2022 that the invaders had started improving the fortification of the defense lines on the left bank of the Dnipro River and the north of the peninsula. So one thing we can pull from this is they're amassing troops, but two, when I hear about the trenches that are being dug and made and refortifying, that's literally what they're doing in Romania. I don't know if any of you have seen. Nobody's talking about the trenches being dug in Romania by the 101st, but apparently it's way bigger than many people think as far as how many trenches they've dug in on the border of Romania, which is obviously not UKR. Dex, what do you think about them amassing? Is this because they are feeling like, that something's about to go down?
Well, they've always feared, and we've seen them beef up, I guess, the forces in Crimea, and now they're doing it even more. If you listen to the reports out of UKR and out of the West, they're saying that they're being defeated and that UKR is about to be on the offensive. They've been holding the lines, they've been, pushing hard, et cetera, but they're now going to be on the offensive. And that narrative sort of goes well with some of the strikes that have happened across the border, so to speak. So if that's true, then, the next place we know Zelensky wants to go is Crimea. They want to get back the territories in the east, and they want to reclaim Crimea that was annexed back in 2014. So it's a logical target, and I think it makes sense that they're backing, that if they're pushing these troops in there to back that up. Again, this is, coming from UKR. So even this piece of news is going to come from one side, not the other. So we have to always take all this with a grain of salt, but that's what I think is what it's looking like.
Well, we'll see what happens and we'll update you. The picture, by the way, you can see the trenches being dug in the little paths, or at least that's what I think this is. It says that those are the Russian trenches in the North-occupied Crimea. And then U.S.-sanctioned Russian ship loaded with military cargo enters the Black Sea, media reports. So this is apparently something that shouldn't happen, right? As noted, the ship was loaded in Syria sailed with a Russian Navy escort. It is expected to unload in the city of Novorossiysk, Russia, a base heavily involved in the invasion of UKR. So basically, they're skirting around every sanction there is, right? The Bosporus Straits, which run through Istanbul and are Turkish sovereign waters, is closed to warships due to the conflict in UKR. Russia is instead using auxiliaries and merchant vessels to move war supplies through the straits. I also want to point out, great conversation the other night about how these containers, they can contain, and they've been designed by Russia, US, and China, have all done very intricate designs of weapons that can be travel in these containers. Not only the container itself can be the weapon. We talked about this when there was that big backup off of the West Coast, and how people actually thought maybe that China had thousands of weapons out there in the water, and that's why it all happened and all of that. But as far as this is saying that they're basically doing that they're putting the weapons in these commercial containers and shipping them that way. It says, according to Naval News, the Sparta IV is one of the 4 ships owned by SC South LLC, a Russian shipping company which is involved in transporting military equipment. The company and the ship have been sanctioned by the U.S. government under Specially Designated Nationals List, or the SDN, following the invasion of UKR. Russian media previously reported that the ship arrived in the city of Tartus in Syria carrying humanitarian aid. This followed the devastating earthquake on February 6th. The aid was carried in shipping containers on deck. After that, the vessel was loaded in the Russian naval base at Tartus. They're basically saying that, this was weapons and tanks and possible whatever else. Prior to entering the Bosphorus, the ship was observed on March 1st, 2023, sailing in the eastern Mediterranean away from Tartus. It appeared to be escorted by the Russian Navy Project 2380 Starogushachoy class missile corvette. So yeah, it's not carrying TVs. it's carrying something else. By the way, thank you. Appreciate all of the comments here. Thank you. Check. Let's see here. TikTok, the USA is about to pay the price. Bible Talk 777, thank you for being the first one out tonight. Carol, thank you so much. Carol, again, thank you. Much love, Fugel fam. Have to watch tomorrow. Good night. Zenwen, I hope you do. There's more to come. Carol, thank you so much. KT Cleans a Lot, thank you for your support. Thank you for supporting Independent. SM, I appreciate that. It's Vlad Dodd. Let's see, is wow still a thing? Smile, baby. Hey, thank you. It's Vlad. And then David Wad, thank you as well. Appreciate that. Thank you for the super sticker. You're terrific. I love you in the show. Carol, thank you. Chia Lisa, thank you for the massive support. I appreciate that. Not necessary. We appreciate you, love. And then Robert Cardoza, thank you so much. I appreciate that as well. You can always write a message there if you do a super chat. And then MK, don't sweat the haters, y'all. You do great. Misery loves company, and some people just need something to complain about. No, I think there's a difference between hating and criticizing, because criticism should, if there's a valid point, people should look at it first before considering it hate, right? But some things, it's just, it's better left like, if you have nothing nice to say, then don't say it at all. Keep it up, Jennifer Sammy. I love Beagles. Love you, Marf and Sexy Dex. I love Beagles. Carol, again, thank you. You're terrific, Marf, and I love the shoutro. Thank you. Ray the Way, imagine if there's submarines that can carry personnel the size of aircraft carriers. That would be the ultimate sneak attack. Imagine if there's submarines that can carry personal, but I think you meant personnel, the size of aircraft carriers. That would be the ultimate sneak attack. Well, I guess it would just be the logistics of getting the submarine to have a ramp or something out. But I would assume that's probably part of a plan somewhere. I wonder if they have something like that. Cold Cracker says, it's killing my alter ego and I cannot call in. Bore y'all to death, LMAO. Best thing about FugelFam, it's even my call did suck. LOL, you always get a response no matter what. Mafia for life, it's the only way. Hey, thank you, Cold Cracker. And actually, your calls are never boring. I would think most people agree. Another, I miss the old calls from like BOD and Shan, who used to call in as Darth Vader. Those are the good old days. But yeah, it will be back. We'll get there. I promise. All right. And Bulgaria transfers to UKR weapons worth billions of dollars through third countries. I thought that's like politically incorrect now. I guess they meant third party. Dex, do you want to cover this one?
Yeah, so this is kind of interesting. Through the paperwork, they're discovering that all of these potentially weapons, is what they're saying, $1 billion worth have been shuttled through Bulgaria into UKR. So this is exactly one of the many ways that they're getting their funding. So not only is it coming from the U.S., which we all know about everything we send and what the other Western states are sending, but there's a lot more that's actually funneling through Bulgaria. So if you add up the money, you can add an extra $1 billion here. That's quite a bit, and that certainly goes to the point that they're not going to survive. This whole conflict would have been over really quickly if everyone else didn't step in and foot the bill.
Yeah, and there's a lot of bills to be stepped in on. In response to a journalist's request, the Bulgarian Minister of Economy said that the country has not made an agreement, either the UK or companies or state bodies, and no export permissions have been issued in the period from February 24th until 22 of January 19th, 2023. But last year alone, Bulgaria indirectly exported at least $1 billion, $1 billion worth of weapons to UKR. The publication notes that the supply of weapons to UKR began even before the full-scale invasion. Gosh, I wonder if there were any articles or things that kind of could have predicted this. Oh yeah, there was. We covered them. I don't know if you remember this. A year before the invasion, we said that it was going to happen, and it wasn't just us. It was everybody, because they put 160,000 troops on the border and then said, psych, just kidding. It was only a drill, but we're going to leave all of our gear on the border, all of our mobile hospitals, all of our, ready checkpoints and everything that we put up. We're just going to leave them here. It's just a drill, though. It's like, that's why we watched the drills. We knew a year before, and we even showed you like 4 months before, they were shipping in all sorts of stuff. They were shipping in blood like a month before. And we said, this is the final stage. It was like 3 weeks before. Do you guys remember that when we covered that a third-party company basically said that all of this blood was being ordered? It was that's what happens right before a war. They get the stuff ready for casualties and things like that. So that's also one thing that we got to watch for with China and Taiwan if we see stuff like that, or countries shipping blood into China for some reason or something like that. Those last kind of stages right before. Reminder, if you haven't already, make sure to go over and check out marfugelnews.com/prep. This is where you can actually get an affordable deal with a huge discount on freeze-dried, storable, 25-year shelf life food, and it helps support the channel. Go over to marfugelnews.com/prep. Not only can you, of course, get a huge discount on the 3-month, right now they're actually giving you I want to say a $300 plus value Alexa Pure Pro gravity-fed water filtration system. It's the one that, again, it's their premium. It's a premium water filtration system, and a lot of people compare it to all of the top, but it's a whole lot less. It can do a whole lot of water at a single time, and it can get rid of 99.9% of all of the nasty stuff like lead, fluoride, chlorine, viruses, bacteria, all sorts of stuff, and then turn it into really nice potable water. Go to marfugelnews.com/prep. Again, that comes free with the 3-month right now, so make sure to go and use this code, and you will get that on top of 3 months of 25-year shelf life food. They have smaller packages as well, though. They are one of the most affordable. That's why we went with them. There are really great competitors out there. There's a couple companies I do like, but it's like if you go for 3 months, it's like there's another company that's close to $2,000, and they do have nicer packaging. They have some other stuff with it. But again, it's so much more. And it's honestly something that most people are getting in case of emergency. I can't see why it's so much more, but I do think there's a lot of good brands out there. Whatever you end up getting is really good. If you don't have the money for any of this, make sure to go check out the network of friends over at Friends of Marfugel. There's a lot of channels that can actually teach you how to do this yourself, how to possibly a much cheaper way to get into it instead of freeze drying would be to dehydrate. And there's tons of really great prep channels on our friends page and under the friends and mods. And they'll tell you how to dehydrate and get to that same point, or at least somewhere close, and do it yourself. Dehydrating is much cheaper to get into than freeze drying. Freeze dryers, if you really do want to get something where you have to do it pretty much every day to stock up a whole lot, you can get into the thousands of dollars for the freeze dryer machines. At least the capable ones that are, do enough to where you're not working every day to have a month, right? So go over and check out marfugelnews.com/friends. That's where Ilea is. And of course, Trinity and Rip Curl and CJ Blaze and Bones and all of the great mods, including RGL Harris, Wages, and everybody else. So let's see here. And then, of course, Lisa R. Hall. All right. And we have U.S. Special Forces want to use deepfakes for PSYOPs. It's like, they want to, or they're already? Dex, U.S. Special Operations Command wants to use deepfakes for PSYOPs. Who would have saw that coming?
Exactly. Like, aren't they already? I mean, they work directly with the 3-letter agencies and their work. So I'm sure they've got access and have been doing this. But basically, what's happening is there's documents that were reviewed from federal contracting documents that the Intercept had reviewed, and it talks specifically about their upcoming plans that involve hacking internet connected devices for eavesdropping, assessing foreign population susceptibility to Ganda, and other parts of disinformation campaigns and their effectiveness and the ethics of their use. So they're looking specifically on two sides. One, how do they detect this stuff? And two, how do they use it to their own advantage? And I would assume they're already doing this. Maybe they're just now telling us about it, I guess, as it's getting the light of day. But on the flip side is we have to think about, what does this mean? If it's when you think about SOCOM and what they do, and you watch I don't know, Navy SEALs or one of those TV shows, and that gives you a glimpse into what you think reality is with those guys. If you've never been there, you don't really know. but you would think that they have all this access. You would think that they have this capability already. It's also interesting, and makes you question, if they're investing heavily in this, what are they planning to do with it? Is it only for going after the bad guys in the ME, or in Xi's country or other places, or is this something that could be used against the population as well, as it relates to any information they want to gandize to the public here in the US?
Think about this. They're talking about using deepfakes for psyops, right? But they're also, it says, hacking internet connected devices to eavesdrop in order to assess foreign population susceptibility to propaganda. Do you think that word foreign, do you think that's like the stupidest thing? It just assess populations. That should be just taken out of there. We just covered DHS has a program that's not being talked about, which is essentially watching and monitoring everything. That's why I worry. Everybody's in Spaces right now. Spaces is probably the one place. There's Rumble and there's all stuff like that, but Spaces is public, and a lot of people in the mainstream are actually flocking to it right now. The one thing I worry about with that is that we heard a month before that they were monitoring like tweets and stuff like that. Is it some sort of trap so people, go out loud and say what they believe, and then they assess, and then they go, oh, this is something that they are putting it into some AI computer and pumping out the results, and a list is, made for it. I would love for them to explain themselves on it. Why aren't people up in arms about this? They say foreign because that's supposed to, let you at ease. Like, oh, don't worry, we're only doing it for foreign populations, right? Because there's a global debate over technologically sophisticated disinfo. If you're planning on making deepfakes, then you are disinfo. You are the one that's making it. That's just if their effectiveness and the ethics of their use. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of fake stuff. People are going to be thrown under the bus by these governments. They're going to make somebody look like they've said something horrible or done things. Watch. There's going to be people falling like flies. What I thought was funny, but just totally be unbiased, not a fan of Mr. Tate, right? I thought it was so interesting that like 2 days after the public had access to the voice thing, all of a sudden, it was like 2 days after it was available, but 1 day before they really put it out there to the world, they put out a clip of Tate, like all chopped up, saying all of this stuff. Now, I've talked to Jacob Israel at length with this, and he's really not a fan. And again, I'm not either. But one thing I do look at is like Vice put out this thing of a clip of him like all chopped up and saying these things, and it's like they could destroy somebody with a voice clip or with a deep fake or with this. So if somebody dissents, they can destroy you. Now, it turns out he has got some bad things going too. He did these cam things and did all sorts of stuff. So just like Putin's not a great guy, but you can see the truth in some of this stuff. It's like they are going to literally destroy people using this technology. Anybody that speaks out on stuff is probably going to have something pop up, right? So I don't know what we are supposed to believe going on in the future if they can deep fake everything, if they can create things. And this isn't just like Hollywood movies things. This is now to the point where they can do it in 10 seconds. They could do it almost real time. Somebody could be in an actual event and then they put it in the computer and make it look like it happened almost live. They can literally do it live. We covered that. Dex, do you remember when they made that live? It wasn't an appearance on a TV show or something where the guy did a live deep fake and typed it. He literally spoke and it changed his face and everything with it. It wasn't the actual guy speaking. Did we cover that?
I think we did. I recall that.
So he's up on stage. There's like a projector or something projecting the image of him and it's live, and they were able to alter it in real time. That's where you get to the point where we will not know what to believe. And here's the bad part. Once it gets to that point, guess where they're going to go next? They're going to go, we don't know what's real, what's not. And it's so bad, and the public has access to all of it, that they're going to go, here's the next step. We need a digital ID on every single human being that accesses the internet. And it's for your safety. So we know when something gets put out, who's it from? Where is it coming from? Is this really the person? Do you see how this could be a leader right into something where they absolutely track every single person online and off? That's what I see later down the road, a digital ID system so they can prove that it's not a deep fake or whatever else. They'll do horrible things, then show you the outcome, and then, of course, have a solution. And the solution's worse than the problem. New F-35s are being test flown again following the Texas crash. There's been so many weird plane events lately. F-35 Lightning IIs are being delivered to testing facilities again as production returns to normal after a dramatic crash on a Texas runway last year grounded new models of the fighter jet. The F-35 Lightning II joint program announced last month that engineers had identified, quote, a rare system phenomenon in F-135 engines noticed during inspections that followed the December 15 mishap, when a variant of the jet crashed at a runway at Naval Air State Joint Reserve Base, Fort Worth. Lockheed Martin, the defense contractor for the F-35, said that the company is now delivering new jets. We resumed F-35 production flight operations today following an F-135 engine mitigation action, and it said that Lockheed Martin tweeted Monday, safety remains our top priority as we continue to produce the world's most advanced fighter aircraft. So they're putting it back on after. What was the problem with the F-35? Wasn't that the one where that wasn't related to the parts in it, right? Or was that something else?
It's had a couple of problems. It had missing ejection charges. It had
made in China,
a bad part that was made in China that was that needed to be replaced. And now these are the new ones, and it had this for lack of a better word, a bug that they discovered in it that caused that crash. I guess on one hand, we can now understand it wasn't pilot error. He didn't accidentally hit the stick forward at the wrong moment and tip the nose down and put that plane into a spin and then eject out when it leveled. That obviously something happened with the plane, probably the software in the plane.
Yeah, so it wasn't because of his incompetence, it was a problem with it. And around the same time that all of these issues with our fighting forces there's been other fighting forces that have been grounded too because of remember the huge cargo ships or the refuelers got grounded because of some part that was also related to China. Around the same time, they're now questioning the cranes, they're questioning everything. I think it's because some are pointing out that this may be on purpose. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below, and let me know in the chat. And then storms keep hammering California, and this could be soon become a problem. So a lot of talk everywhere about the weather and the insane weather. Now, I know that Wages World has been covering a lot of the solar events. We, of course, had an X-flare. We had all these crazy, weird things happening, but we have had these unprecedented events like that polar vortex breakup twice, I think. There's normal, this happens every once in a while, these kind of things happen, but then there's the patterns that are emerging, which are, of course, being used to push a certain narrative. But at the same time, you're questioning, what is really going on here? We had 48 landlocked states in almost freezing temperatures or near there. And, of course, the storms that have been heading the West Coast, it seems like I've been in a storm for a year straight. That's how it feels. I'm on the West Coast. I'm up in Seattle. So it's just crazy that we're having storm after storm after storm. Well, California has actually had it worse. It says it's still snowing in the Sierra Nevada after a weekend storm dumped several more feet of snow on top of the 12 feet that fell during the 2 weeks prior. The onslaught of precipitation is far from over. Signs point to continued active weather pattern that could deliver massive additional amounts of precipitation in the next 2 weeks, with the temperature forecast to slowly rise. The concern is that the increasing portion of this precipitation may fall as rain, melting snowpack and leading to serious flooding risks. And of course, the amount of snow is staggering. 48.33 feet of snow has fallen so far this winter at the Central Sierra Snow Lab near Donner Pass in California. Though through the end of February, the recorded snowfall was unprecedented, which we hear all the time now. The Sierra Nevada has now a snowpack that is 186 to 269% of normal. The cold season has featured a parade of atmospheric rivers, jets of deep tropical moisture swirled east by sprawling low-pressure storm systems. Many have brought significant rain and flooding to the lowlands and feet in the snow in higher altitudes. California was hit with 12 feet of snow. Is it enough to ease the drought? It's like, that was the joke, too, on Twitter. It was like they were pointing out, so do we still need to limit how many times we water our lawns now? There were points where they were restricting people to watering their lawns once a week and things like this. And now they're covered. By the way, Aaliyah, you had that crazy storm. Aaliyah, her channel, she's in California. She actually covered some of those humongous storms that came through. She showed trees like this and rain, which I always thought when they said sideways rain, it was like this. She showed in her video, it was no joke. I have never seen that in my life. Rain going actually sideways. It was nuts. So go check out Aaliyah's channel if you want to see those videos. Dex, you get to stay away from that, but even you've had crazy weather in Georgia. You've had it bad too. What's up with this weather?
Yeah, it seems like everybody's getting strange weather. And this is, it was funny because like we were talking like, oh, they have a drought and they need water, and you talk about the river and the the lakes that are all drying up. I know this doesn't necessarily solve the Hoover Dam, and is that Lake Powell, I guess, or Mead? I can't remember. But one of those lakes over there. But this does solve potentially a lot of California's problems if they manage it correctly. But man, if this starts to quickly melt and melt fast with rain, that's going to create, like they're saying, it's going to create some pretty serious challenges as it relates to potential flooding. Which again, something that California, when it happens, it's not good. It's not easy for them to manage. So hopefully this won't be too big of an issue, but it certainly is looking like it could be.
Yeah, it's nuts how is the weather in your area? Do a roll call. Where are you at, and have you had unusual weather? Have you lived there your whole life and have never seen anything like it? Let me know in the chat below. And then, of course, let me know in the comments, too. If you're watching the replay and you're watching this afterwards, I'd love to hear from you. And by the way, thank you. I don't know. It says user-UE8L. You never chat, but you always pop in like the super thanks and always say thank you. So thank you. I appreciate that. You can always write a message there or something. Thank you for the super thanks on the last show. And something is off. I appreciate that. And then, of course, Jessica Mathis, 7386. Thank you. And then somebody else said thank you. Jessica Mathis said finally an early show. There will be more early shows once the schedule, once we get the schedule, once I'm able to get it back to that point, we will. And I'm changing things around so we can. So that will happen very soon. Try to get on no later than 7. Which, again, if it's any later than that, for East Coast people, I understand it's way too late. If we get started at 11 p.m. Eastern, which, again, that's Dex's time too, it's bad for all of us. And it's bad for you, Dex. You have to stay up until 2 a.m. So we want to get back on the earlier schedule. What is a good time for you guys? Let me know. What is the latest the show should start? Should we be doing 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern? Let me know. I'd love to do a poll on this. Like, what is the best start time for you guys? Dex, go ahead.
And make sure to include your time zone if you put a number out there. Folks.
Yeah. Because, you get why. Let's see here. I would love the feedback, though. So please comment down below what time zone you're in and what time would be the best start time. And we will adjust things around it. And then once we get calls going, it should not be anything past 7 p.m. Pacific, because after that also the calls dry up too. It's like people don't want to call in at night. So Once we start doing the call-ins again and having video guests, that will be a lot different. It's been one step at a time. So thank you, everybody, for being patient. All right. And let's see here. Let's go over. Thank you, Cole Cracker. I appreciate that. Thank you over on D Live. I'm going to make sure to not miss you guys. Amex Katsuni says, not to permanent mode another channel, but Ryan Hall, y'all, on YouTube. I like Ryan Hall. I just found his channel a couple weeks ago. Does a great job explaining what happened with the weather. I'm in a sack town, and it's been crazy. Yeah, I like his channel, and he did it. I mean, even if you don't, I don't think he does too many crazy theories or anything, but he does explain the weather terms really well, and he does it in a really professional fashion. So yeah, Ryan Hall, y'all. I don't think there's anything wrong with that channel. Let me know. I don't think I wouldn't think there's anything wrong with it, but he does a really good video on the polar vortex and just explains why it shouldn't have happened. And then Gypsy Flat, thank you. Says you are amazing. Thank you. I appreciate that. Neil Nelson, thank you. Ray the Way. There's a space show called The Expanse, and it's troubling how it may be predicting the future. Earth is the UN, Mars is Russia and China combined, and the asteroid belt is the equivalent of the middle E. Things that are in the show that are literally happening now. I have never heard of that. It's called The Expanse. I'll have to check that out. And then Carol, thank you so much. Cole Cracker, again, thank you. Expanse. Where is it on? Is it like on Amazon, or if it's on Netflix, I probably won't be able to find it. But anyways, let's go over to the web only. We have a lot of crazy stuff that's been going on down there. So make sure to head over to marfugelnews.com and check it out. Dex, just so you know, I cannot load the show. So might want to check on that. Let's see.
It's loading fine here. Maybe
Okay.
on your end.
Okay. Well, I've got the actual page with it. So if you just want to go over the news, that's weird.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a shout out to Paul, who gave a last second super in there didn't say anything, but thank you, Paul. That's awesome. We really appreciate you. Hey, head over to marfugelnews.com. That's what we're showing you here. Click on the thumbnail for the show. You'll get to this page, which covers all the news articles we just went through. So we back up all the sources, as Adam said in the beginning of the show. It's like a bibliography. Everything's there. You're going to get to this yellow bar. It's called Overflow. This is the rest of the story. Everything else that we either couldn't get to, or it's kind of not controversial, but too many people argue about, it's all here. The rest of the story, it's like an entire show. If you want to go check it out, go look, see all the other information that you're missing out on. If you're on YouTube and Rumble, open up the show notes link. It's in the description. We make it super easy for you to get here. Lots going on. So updates on what's going on in Mexico, that's there. Some updates with what's going on in France. We got a few things on that as well. So if you want more information on what's happening there. There's some stuff going on with the border, and some people are kind of concerned about what the administration may do, as they have used to tell they weren't happy with what T-Man was doing with that, and now it looks like our current administration may be doing the same thing. So that's what they're kind of up in arms over. Some other stuff going on with in the political spectrum is all covered there. Of course, there's the Tucker thing that's been going on all week. Unless you're under a rock, you may not know if you've been under a rock, but most everybody has seen the expose that's coming out from the video footage. So you can see a lot of that over on Twitter. So there's a lot you can't go on there without finding it. It's there. So if you want to see that, it's on the website as well. The additional things that are going on with the upcoming 2024, what's happening in there, a little bit about what's going on with the economics and the Fed chair, and what they've talked about, as well as the debt ceiling. Let's not forget that's right around the corner, coming up in the next month or two. So they're getting a lot of discussion about that. That sort of covers your political spectrum. Outside of, say, TikTok, that's in there as well. So there's some stuff from the administration on what they're trying to do with TikTok. Updates with AI. with the OOG, as well as some updates on privacies in loopholes, so to speak, in the doorbells, whether it be Ring or others. So if you want to learn about that, that's there. Some interesting photos coming from the Curiosity rover, showing clouds and the first time they've ever captured sun rays. I guess because you have cloud cover, then they have sun rays coming through the clouds, and they were able to capture that on Mars. So kind of an interesting perspective from that, as well as some updates with UKR and what's happening there. And then the obligatory Elon stuff that's going on, which in this case is the FTC Twitter investigation is looking for Elon's internal communications. So that's something else that it seems like every time we turn around, somebody's trying to dig in on him for whatever reasons they have. And they're all over the map when it comes to him. He seems to be everybody's favorite target at the moment. Hey, all of that is on the website. It's real easy to get to that and so much more. I didn't even tell you all of it. So just head over to marfugelnews.com. You can click on the thumbnail for today's show. You can click on the thumbnail for yesterday's show. You'll find the overflow section and the rest of the story. It's all there. We put it together for you every night. If you're on YouTube and Rumble, it's even easier. It's the show notes link. It's in the description. Just click that. All of our links are in the description. So if you can't find something, check there first. Very easy to get to, and that's it.
All right, thank you, Dex, and appreciate your service tonight. I thank you for, of course, everything you do, Dex.
Yeah, much love. Great job, brother.
Thank you, mods. I appreciate all of you. Thank you, Ilea. Thank you, Trinity. Thank you, Wages. Thank you, the whole list. And again, you can find all of them over at marfugelnews.com/friends. Thank you, Jammer. Thank you, Chance Paladin. If you guys haven't checked out, he has a newer book. Well, it's not like released last week, but he has the Bunker Codes out. It is recently released, and it is an awesome book. So go check it out on Amazon. That's Chance Paladin. And then, of course, Gem has amazing art. Go check out the link tree. Jammer, Lisa R. Hall, Rip Curl, RGL Harris, Ilea, Trinity, Red Pill, Blue Pill, Hi Ho, Kermit the Frog here. Long, crazy name, but awesome channel. Go check it out. And then Wages World. And, of course, Ilea has those videos of the storm if you want to go check those out. On top of that, all of our friends are down there. Everybody that we vouch for are the same on and off camera. Make sure to go look at some of those. So, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that. You can always write a message with that as well. You didn't have to do that, and I really do appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And you guys have a wonderful night. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It's now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout-out. It's a shoutro. Ba-dum. Thank you guys. By the way, thank you. I appreciate Linda G. I love you guys. Pray for you. Badger1, thank you for the Ninja Genie over on D-Live. Yes, I did. Badger1, thank you. Use the Force and it will protect you from the dark side. MJ1979, the Outlaw Josie Wales, thank you. Paul, I'm going to be doing a Paul song. And then the end is near. Says, love you all. I thanks for what you do. Thank you. Biblical Smackdown, Sweet Witch 25, Carrie Ray. For some reason, D-Live would not let me access this, so I finally got it. Thank you. Appreciate it, appreciate it, appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. I've got to obey. I got on the way. I say I'm on the way, on the way, on the way. I come home. I say on the way, on the way. Everybody gonna go back my way. I'm beautiful. Say the bow. I say, Lolo. I'm a ba 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 ba. I'm on the way back, lonely till I get there like the day. Word out, but everybody man up, let's stand up. Everybody man up, let's stand up.
All right, let's try a new one.